Hey Vinyl community, this is Tim. Thank you for watching. I am back today with a new reissue review on two 30-year anniversary reissues. I'm going to take a look at the reissue of On Every Street from Dire Straits. This was, of course, part of the January Start Your Ear Off Right from that series of Rhino releases. So I recently picked it up and have had some time to have a listen. Did a little bit of research online about what people think about it. And I'm going to come back with my thoughts after the intro here. And then secondly, I want to take a little bit of a deep dive on this incredible Ozzy Osbourne reissue of No More Tears. No More Tears was originally released on September 17th, 1991. It is an incredible Ozzy Osbourne release. I'm going to talk about how it sounds. I'm going to talk about some of the songs, and we're going to get started right now. One of the highlights of No More Tears is the return of the Ozzy Osbourne signature power ballad. If we think back to the first two albums, we had songs like Mr. Crowley, bless you, You Can't Kill Rock and Roll is one of my favorite Ozzy Osbourne songs of all time. And with No More Tears, we've got Mama, I'm Coming Home. Elliot, no. Ozzy's kind of reaching back, looking back at that formula. You know, Mama, I'm Coming Home starts famously with that Zakk Wylde acoustic 12 string before the song just kind of builds and builds. And that song, I still remember, it was all over what was left of MTV in 1991 into 1992. It sent Ozzy back into kind of the mainstream where, you know, he had been with Diary of a Madman, and of course Blizzard of Oz, a little bit less with Bark at the Moon, but Ozzy Osbourne was back in the general conversation as far as the music industry was concerned. And he had cleaned himself up, he had sobered himself up. Mama, I'm Coming Home was all about his love for Sharon, famously, and co-written, of course, by Lemmy. Those two were a couple odd bedfellows, but it really worked on this album. I think they co-wrote 4 songs that made the album. There's a couple additional songs that ended up on comps, I believe. But Mama, I'm Coming Home is probably the centerpiece of this album. But I'm going to put the argument out there that this is a very, very cohesive Ozzy Osbourne album. We've got 2 other power ballads that I have to mention. Time After Time is fantastic. And Road to Nowhere. Now, Road to Nowhere, there was that famous kind of autobiographical video that Ozzy put out for that, where he's sitting in a burned out den in a leather chair watching old Black Sabbath clips. But Road to Nowhere is an incredible song. The band behind him for this album was fantastic. Randy Castile basically held up the drum duties to fantastic effect. Zakk Wylde is an absolute monster on guitar on this album. and turned out to be a real good foil for Ozzy Osbourne, basically a compatriot in arms. Um, there was the Jakey Lee years, and then Zach followed. I think Zach has hit almost the same heights that Randy Rhoads hit with Ozzy. Just some incredible, incredible playing and some incredible solos. If you want to talk about the full spectrum of this album, of course, it's got some really good hard rock moments. I Don't Want to Change the World is fantastic. Won't Be Coming Home with the acronym SIN is a very, very good track. And then finally, probably my favorite hard rocking song on this album is Desire. Desire is just a tour de force. To throw another pun out, why not? And I think this is a really, really good reissue. I'm happy to have it in the collection. If you are on the fence about it, don't worry. If this is a fantastic sounding pressing, hopefully you will get a good example of this. If not, send it back until you get it right. I was lucky enough to get this thing correct the first time. Sterling sound, Ryan K. Smith. This is a really powerful album. And, it's a little bit sad. I've seen a few videos of Ozzy back in 2017, 2018 on a tour that he did. And, time is catching up with him. Who knows how long we're going to have Ozzy Osbourne here among us. But this definitely stands the test of time now. 30 years later, we can look back and say this is one of the finest pieces of work that Ozzy has produced. That is No More Tears, the 30th anniversary reissue. Available now. Go out and get it if you don't have it. If you're an Ozzy fan, this is a must. In September of 1991, there was another album released, and this was from Dire Straits. That album was On Every Street. It is also released as a double LP. Unfortunately, they kind of Rhino cheaped out on this thing, and I have both LPs kind of in the back pocket of this sleeve, and it's not a gatefold. I wish, for releases like this that they would go ahead and go the extra mile and make this a gatefold. It didn't happen this time. Similar complaint to the Ozzy album. These kind of hard cardboard sleeves are not good for maintaining the condition of your records. I am going to be switching them out to archival sleeves ASAP. Let's think back about 1991 and Mark Knopfler. Where was Mark Knopfler? First of all, Brothers in Arms was released in 1985. They had I think at least a 2 or 3 year world tour, multiple legs, Live Aid, video after video after video, single after single after single, multiple millions sold of that album. And in 1988, Knopfler basically kind of closed the curtain on Dire Straits. John Illsley went to Australia, I think, and recorded an album. And Knopfler went ahead and did a duet album with a hero of his, Chet Atkins, and then formed kind of a pickup country folk band called the Notting Hillbillies. And I think he also moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And all of those things eventually kind of colored what we got as a result, which was On Every Street. And On Every Street features Jeff Porcaro on drums, one of the quintessential best rock and roll drummers of all time. Did a ton of work with Steely Dan. Was a member of Toto. Tragically died not long after this album was released. I think we lost Jeff Porcaro. Might have been 92. So not long after the release of this album, and he is just a fine player, and you can hear that on this album. He's got an incredible touch, and was in step with Knopfler just intimately. And this is a beautiful, gorgeous album. There are similar complaints online about static pops and clicks and noisy records. Again, I guess I got lucky. I always use that AudioQuest brush, and it removed any issues that other people, I guess, are having. So make sure you clean these records very carefully before you give them their first spin. Dire Straits at this point in time was Mark Knopfler, John Illsley, co-founding member of Dire Straits, still there with Knopfler on bass guitar, Alan Clark on keyboards, and Guy Fletcher on keyboards and guitar. Didn't have an official drummer, which is why we have Porcaro on the album. As far as the music on this album, again, it's got a decidedly country tilt to it. There is no real big breakout hit song a la Money for Nothing. I guess the closest thing would have been Heavy Fuel and Calling Elvis. Now, Calling Elvis was a kind of a mid-tempo song with a very long fade out. But the playing by Knopfler here is just incredible, top notch. If you love Knopfler's playing, this is a must-have album for you to have in your collection. There's a lot of nuanced, mellow songs, similar to many of those songs that were on Brothers in Arms. One song for sure that's kind of mellow, but it's kind of a signature. The most Dire Straitsy sounding song would be the title track, On Every Street. By the time we get to the third verse of that song, Knopfler finally kind of takes the lead on guitar, and the band is kind of closely following behind. And it's a really good long form song, long listen. Definitely recommended. The Bug is a good song as well. I think it may have been released as a single. It has a very similar feel to Walk of Life from Brothers in Arms. Very kind of rollicking, country, shuffling involved in it. Vince Gill is playing guitar on that track as well with Knopfler, and doing backup vocals as well. Two more quick favorites on the album. You and Your Friend. You and Your Friend is a really atmospheric Knopfler song. Very similar to songs that would have very similar to songs that showed up on solo Knopfler albums after this album, Sailing to Philadelphia, etc. But it's a beautiful song. And the other song I had in mind was Fade to Black. Fade to Black is a really nice minimalistic shuffle blues. And again, Knopfler's guitar playing is top notch. Porcaro is just kind of using brushes for most of that song. Just gorgeous. And, this would be it. There was another world tour in support of this album. I think it eventually sold multiple millions of copies as well. But as we stand here and now today in 2021, this is the final statement for Dire Straits. There may have been 2 songs that were contributed to soundtracks. I think Knopfler officially kind of closed down the band in 1995. That is the reissue On Every Street. It's a double album. It sounds fantastic. This was cut by Chris Bellman, originally mastered by Bob Ludwig. Don't be concerned with some of the things that you might have read online. I'm here to tell you this sounds fantastic. Just make sure you clean those records. There you have it. These are both standout releases for each of these artists. First of all, this was the kind of final statement that we received from Dire Straits. It's a very, very good album. A little bit subdued, but again, what you would expect from Mark Knopfler. Some incredible playing, some great songsmith architecture of tracks, and really good kind of supporting playing. No More Tears. This is probably the 3rd best in my ranking of the Ozzy Osbourne solo albums after Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. This was a huge return to form for him when this was originally released in 1991. Thanks everybody for watching. I will be back soon with another video as soon as I figure out what the topic is going to be. Take care.